Good evening, Pahrump. How you doing tonight? I'm Bill Kohbarger, and I'm here on my session of Nye County. To my left is Cles Saunders, and to his left is Andy Alberti. I've invited these two gentlemen on to talk about an idea that I fully support, and that is the moving of the county seat in Nye County from the little, outdated, rundown town of Tonopah to the metropolis of Pahrump. So, gentlemen, how'd you come up with the idea of moving the county seat, and why do you think it will work and it's a good idea?
Thanks, Bill. First of all, let me go to where we started. Me and Andy Alberti, in this past election, we got to talking about moving the county seat and how proud and what we like about Pahrump. And I happened to run across an article that Andy wrote about 2 years ago, and it really, made a difference in looking at Pahrump and the county seat. Now, we have did an effort to move the county seat, and one of the reasons that people object to it is, it's going to cost and moving the records. That's the only thing that I can see that was going to happen there. But here's my reasons. First of all, I'm looking at, okay, what has happened in the past. The county seat has moved like 3 times. It started out at Ione, and then it went to Belmont, and then it went to Tonopah. Now, if one were to look and see why, it was because of population. But what made that population? It was mining. It was finding gold or silver. So basically, our county seats have been a mining town. So my concern, why can't we have a county seat that represent a vibrant community with diversity? Plus, we have that, population. And that's one of the things that has been happening. The county seat has been moved because of the amount of people and the most population. So right now, Nye County, Pahrump has the population. And when we look at that, we look at 38,000 in Pahrump versus about 3,000 in Tonopah. So that is one of the reasons that I would like to have it moved. Plus the fact that, a lot of people says, oh, it's just an ego trip for them guys. Well, it might be. I'm proud of Pahrump. I'm really proud of Pahrump and what Pahrump has to offer. We have a lot here, and right now, I just think, that the county seat should be in Pahrump.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. Andy, what are your comments?
Well, originally, my thought was that a government works best that's closest to the people, and it should service the people where the biggest population is. And if you look at it, it's right. Tonopah at one time had more than 10,000 people, and Tonopah and Pahrump had very little. But now we're in a position where according to the planning department, there's over 38,000 people just in Pahrump alone, and about 2,500 or so in Tonopah, maybe 5,000 if you take everything north of Beatty to the county line. This means that if you want to give good service to the people, it should be here. Now, the problem is the county seat has been in Tonopah since 1905, but the service to the population, they're operating really 2 county seats right now, the one in Tonopah and the one that's here. There are issues that take place because the county seat's in Tonopah that cause some consternation and some additional expense to the public in addition to operating 2 county seats.
What's those expenses?
Well, as an example, right now we have a jail in Tonopah and we have a jail in Pahrump. My understanding is that the jail in Pahrump is halfway built to full capacity. In other words, they could double the capacity. The jail in Tonopah has a capacity of 80 prisoners with only 40 beds in it. They're not going to sleep stacked. We just need more beds. But because the expense of that hospital was, jail was $1.2 million annually, By going to a holding facility, they've reduced the cost down to $400,000. But even at that, the jail building still exists. We think if that jail building was shut down and the facility, we found somebody else that wanted to use it, maybe a federal agency or something, that not only would it become no more of an expense to the county, it could actually become a profit center where we could make some money. And that's just one example.
Do you know how many people are being held in the Tonopah jail at this present time?
I submitted a public record, to answer your question, not really, but I'm going to give you what I know.
Okay.
I submitted a Public Records Act request to the sheriff asking for some figures prior to the time that they decided to make it a holding facility. So I don't know how many were there before, I don't know how many are there now, but when we went to Tonopah, the person that was sitting at the desk, we asked if we could go into the jail, and we still have not gotten permission for that, said there were a couple of people in the jail. Well, a couple to me means two.
2 to 4. 2 to 4.
Well, I'm going to go with two.
I'm going to go with the 2 to 4 ex-law enforcement, couple 2 to 4.
Right.
Well, if we're going to spend $400,000 for somebody to be there temporarily, because they're going to move them down here to the Pahrump jail anyway, it would just seem to me that there might be a better solution rather than using the building for our uses. And I understand that maybe some people get put in there from Esmeralda County or some other location if it happened to be close. But you have to realize, out of a population of 5,000 people, if we've got 80 people in jail, which is the capacity, to me, something's wrong with the population. And I think Cles and I would both agree that we'd be better off to shut that jail down, shift a prisoner down to Beatty if we had to temporarily, and then move them down to Pahrump from there.
What's interesting, if I heard this correctly, is that you stated it's $400,000 to run that jail per year, correct?
Well, what they're saying is, and this is the sheriff's figure, not mine,
Okay.
that right now, making it a holding facility is $400,000.
And I read an article just last week, I believe it was in the Mirror, that in the first 2 months, the county's budget is already in the deficit by, what was that total? $400,000. So if they shut down that holding facility, which obviously don't need to do 2 to 4 citizens a month, there goes their budget would be breaking even. 400,000 and 400,000, I'm pretty sure, isn't that even?
Right,
Well,
it's close.
let me throw one other thing out on the table here. We actually got from Danelle Shamrell, the human resources person, an accounting of where every employee worked. And in the town of Tonopah, at the listing we got, there were either 24 or 28 sheriffs.
Deputies.
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 In a population, well, it didn't say specifically deputies, it said in the employee of the sheriff's department. So
Okay, so it
just
could
to
be
kind of,
sworn
yeah.
and non-sworn personnel.
What we think is that half of those deputies at that time were working in the jail, because you have to man the jail with deputies. Now, if you recall, a couple of years ago, when they built the jail here in Pahrump, they told us that would be a profit center. We would make some money on it.
That's exactly what Sheriff
And that's
DeMaio
why we
stated.
built it. But then, if you recall later, they weren't making money with it, so they came to the population and they asked us as taxpayers to approve an increase in the sales tax by 0.5%. Half of that would go to the sheriff's department for more jailers, if you will, and half was going to go to the fire department. But if there's 24 deputies in Tonopah, I'm guessing, and nobody has given me any figures, we've never gotten down to the nitty-gritty, but it would seem to me if there was half of those working in the jail, figuring how many days a week the jail is open, which is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If we closed the jail and those deputies came down here, maybe we don't need need half of that half-cent sales tax, and we could reduce that as far as population.
You know, I wouldn't even look at it that way. I would look at it as a safety concern for the town of Pahrump and for the town of Tonopah. Obviously, it appears to what you're telling me and what I'm hearing, if they have 24 deputies up there, whether they're road deputies or corrections officer, they must have a lot of crime up there because there's only 3,000 people. So 24 deputies for 3,000 people, that's way above the national average. Now, if you would just cut back to 12 deputies up there and bring those 12 deputies down here, that would be a major safety issue for the town of Pahrump. It would help out with all the issues that I have heard as my 5 years as town manager, all the issues that I've heard Tony DeMeo and Rick Marshall speak about. Bringing more deputies in, that would solve that issue too. So shutting that down would not only save the county $400,000, but would help alleviate the less deputies that they are constantly complaining about in the town of Pahrump.
Well, I wouldn't want to mislead.
Sounds kind of like a win-win situation.
I wouldn't want to mislead on that $400,000 figure because I'm sure it included the deputies' salaries.
Oh, I get that, but still.
But the deputies could be down here, you're absolutely right.
If you bring 12 deputies down here with an average salary of $65,000, over time you're talking probably about $80,000 with benefits. You're talking about $120,000 per deputy. So you're talking about $1.3 million, $1.4 million for 12 deputies. So I really don't think that $400,000 included deputies.
It was never clear in the budget, at least from what I could tell. So, but
well, and one other thing, and we're running out of time on this session, but I do invite you guys to stick around for the next session because I would really like to delve into this a little bit more. I've always heard, and I've seen the figures on it, that it's roughly about $38,000 to $50,000 a year for our county commissioners to drive up there one meeting a month because it has to be legally held at the county seat.
Right.
And if they move that county seat from Tonopah to Pahrump and use the video equipment that they already have in Tonopah to go ahead and film stuff up there, or to at least let people have a say, they would save $38,000 to $50,000 more by having a county seat here in Pahrump. And I'm all about numbers and saving budgets.
I hear somebody singing to the choir.
Well, I understand.
Right.
We got less than 1 minute to go in this segment, but I think you guys have hit the nail on the head with very sound, solid reasoning as to why we need to move an outdated county seat that has 3,000 people to a county, to a town that has 38,000, I believe it's like 86% of the total population in the county to Pahrump. I think without a doubt it's a beautiful idea. In our next segment, I believe we will touch on how to make this happen, what the steps has to be, who we need to contact. So thank you very much for attending and welcome to Nye County and the town of Pahrump.
Thank you.